How are you?
I'm good, good. How are you doing, George?
I'm great. I read your resume and I was so impressed. I feel like I should call you Mr. Lloyd or Sir Thomas.
No, not at all. I've just been living down here a long time, George, about 20 years.
20 years? Well, tell us about your life a little bit, anyhow, prior to coming to Mexico.
George, I'm from Indiana. I'm born and raised up there. And this cold weather, really, that's what brought me down here to Mexico. But up in Indiana, I went to play tons of baseball. I went to Purdue University. I got a degree in management and finance degree. And now I've been down here about 20 years. What we talked about, I've been married, and I have two great kids down here in Mexico.
So the cold weather drove you to Mexico, but tell us how you got involved in the real estate business.
I got into real estate. Well, the first place I started in real estate, the job that I took when I came down here to Mexico, I was really in the automobile industry. And one thing led to another, and I ended up doing a project where I was helping some maquiladoras, the manufacturing companies, look for manufacturing sites, distribution centers, and offices down here in Mexico, more along the border of Mexico. And so I think that was my first taste into real estate. I really enjoyed it. So I started doing the scouting and searching and learning a little bit about the logistics. So that was my first taste into real estate. And then when I moved out here to the coast, different type of real estate out here. It's more the residential real estate. There's a big demand. There's a lot of American Canadians moving or looking. They wanted to find out how we can buy or invest in real estate down in Mexico. And so that demand led me to start working in this wonderful industry that I'm into right now.
Well, I understand that Riviera Maya is one of the hot spots in Mexico right now for purchasing real estate.
Yes, Riviera Maya. There's actually, there's other sections too. Puerto Vallarta, Cabo San Lucas, and there seems to be new spots popping up, mainly along the coast. That's the number one place that, a lot of us up in the States or up in Canada, those cold winter nights, we often dream about being on that coast or on the beach, a little hut along the beach. So these are the great places. But there's some wonderful places in the interior, too. I've done a lot of traveling here in Mexico, and living here for 20 years, I've had a lot of opportunities to be traveling road trips. And George and I have been to every state down here in Mexico except Chiapas. That's the only one I have never had the opportunity to visit as of yet.
So what is your real estate background and your credentials relative to real estate sales, that is?
Let's see, in real estate, well, I mentioned before, I come from Purdue. I studied a lot of finance, and coming down here to Mexico, when I wanted to get into the residential real estate industry, I started to take some courses. There's a university called La Salle. They have a beautiful campus here in Cancun. And so one of the first things I did, I wanted to get a little bit better background and knowledge of the law and the transactions, the steps. So I took, one of the first things I did was, it was about a 9-month course, a diploma about real estate here in Mexico. And from there, I started taking other diplomas. I got invited to another institute from the SEP, the Secretaría de Educación Pública. They sponsor a group called Conocer, and I also took one of their diplomas. And during this time period, this is about 3 years ago, George, the government, they came out with a new university degree, and this degree was in the real estate industry. So I thought this was a perfect step and started studying for that. And they came out with a test, and it's the first university degree and a professional identification number in the industry of real estate. So during the test and everything, I ended up, George, getting this cédula profesional, the professional identification number. So I have one of those, and I was the first person in Mexico to receive this new degree in real estate in Mexico.
Interesting. Now, Thomas, I've read a lot about an organization, a real estate organization called AMPI or AMPI. Tell me why our listeners, buyers and sellers, should be concerned as to whether their realtor or agent is a member of this organization.
AMPI is basically Asociación. It's an association of the Mexican Realtors. It's the same thing as the NAR, the National Association of Realtors up in the States, and the same as the CREA, the Canadian Real Estate Association. And this is AMPI is a sister to those associations. So basically what I really enjoy, the reason I became a member of the AMPI is because there's two basic things. One of them is the code of ethics that they follow, and they also, the education. They have a continued education of the industry. There's always new things coming out about every year or so, and it's good for a good agent or a good consultant to be caught up with all the new laws coming out. So those are two good reasons why I joined. Well, it's a good reason that, someone who's coming down here to Mexico, that they want to get good advice. It's good to be following someone or working with someone who's following these guidelines in this association.
Let's talk for a minute about retiring in Mexico, Thomas. When you get beyond the beach and the good weather, why else is Mexico such a desirable retirement location?
George, you mentioned the two. Those are the weather and the nature down here. That's the number one reason people come down here, including myself 20 years ago. But the other reasons, we've seen it over the last 5 years, with a downturn in the economy, the cost and the cost of living has become so important anymore for all of us. And here in Mexico, the cost, when you compare it to other places such as Florida or Hawaii or, the popular places many of us have thought of to retire to, it's a burden. It's a big investment and a risk to be putting so much money. I mean, we should be like what's the word? Forget it. Coming down here to Mexico, you have the cost of the real estate is considerably less expensive. And then you also look at the cost of living. The cost of living, when you look at a couple of items such as the property taxes and your maintenance fees each month, those two items right there, I know those are the number one factors that a lot of people who are buying right now, those are the heaviest factors that make the people choose to come down to Mexico. Now, another thing, George, too, I just want to add in there is the logistics. The majority of the places here in Mexico, we're not that far away from many parts of the United States and Canada. So when you can come down here to many parts of Mexico within 3 hours or 2 hours. So a lot of people forget about that, but once you're living down here in Mexico, you still need to get back up to the States for, special family events and maybe an emergency. You need to be able to jump on the plane and get back quickly. So if you're way 10 hours away, then it's another factor that people should always consider when choosing to retire to different locations. So, George, basically, for these reasons, wrap all of this up, you have the pensions, the Social Security that's shrinking for many Americans and Canadians, and the quality of life you can receive on the limited dollars is being fulfilled for many expats down here in Mexico. You can really stretch the dollar if you're living down here in Mexico.
My wife and I lived in Ensenada, Baja, para 7 years. There were a lot of things where we lived near La Bufadora. There were a lot of things for American expatriates to do, a lot of social organization, a lot of activities, charitable events, and all of that. What types of social organizations are there in your area for expats?
Well, Down here in Playa del Carmen, I have a lot of friends, people who are from the States and Canada. Many of these, a lot of events that they do, one of them that comes to my mind is the Rotary Club. They started a Rotary Club right here in Playa del Carmen, for example. They started it in English, a special club to be just in English, because there's so many of us expats living down here. Uh-huh. And it's a wonderful group, and it's a large group anymore. I think we have like 50-plus people down here in this club at the moment. And apart from the Rotary Club, the Rotary is wonderful because they're always doing events to raise money for the kids and even for animals, all types of events down here. And speaking about animals, there's also a animal rescue. And this is very similar to a lot of the cities here in Mexico, that there's these social events or like Red Cross. I know there are a lot of people get involved with the sports, helping like a little league, small little soccer teams. They're always coming up with some kind of event to raise money for soccer balls or baseball mitts. So there's a tremendous, even at the bars and restaurants, they become very popular just with the expats coming over and, listening to good old classic rock music and live bands. So there's never a dull moment, to tell you the truth.
Several years ago, there was an annual event which was real popular called A Taste of Playa. After 3 or 4, 5 years, it ended, and it was not revived. It was really a good thing. Are there any other events like that happening now, since Taste of Playa ended, that is?
Yeah, that has been going on for about 5 years. And, George, did you come down for that?
No, I didn't make it to A Taste of Playa, but I kept up with it, and I promoted it on one of my websites each time it came around.
Okay. Yeah, that was wonderful. We'll also have another a yearly jazz festival that's really picking up. We just went, I think it was last week, and that's a great event. They put on an incredible stage on the beach, and they have It's free, and you have jazz music from international, all parts of the world. These bands come in and playing jazz music, classic rock as well. And right there on the beach, it's free, and it's amazing how many people are coming each year to this event.
I really love jazz and always have.
So do I.
Thomas, are there any dedicated retirement communities in the Riviera Maya area, or are there any currently under construction or on the drawing board?
George, that's interesting question. It is coming down the funnel. I can see it. One of the things that our team, what we've been doing is we've been doing a lot of consultation with developers, Mexican developers, even American developers wanting to invest and come down here to Mexico to do some projects. Today, here in the coast, the Riviera Maya coast, Cancun, Playa del Carmen, Tulum, Cozumel, today there's not any communities that exist, but there are some places that we call retirement friendly. One of the projects we did just north of Playa del Carmen, it's a smaller community. It's about 25 units, homes. They're single-family homes, one level, but we put a lot of attention on making the bathrooms larger, more accessible. We spent a lot of time on the design of the pool, very easy access in, easy access out of the pool. And we designed the homes. A lot of the homes, the single-family homes in Playa del Carmen and going south into Tulum, they were always designed for families, the Mexican national families, or vacation rental homes. And again, the homes had 3, 4, even 5 or 6 bedrooms. And the market, we're selling a lot or helping a lot of Americans and Canadians retire down here. They're coming down just a couple or even by themselves. So these large homes are just overkill for them. Everybody was downsizing, and it was hard to find single-family homes. You could find condos, But a lot of the Americans, what they're looking for is their own private house. So we came out with these projects, and we designed it to be hacienda style, and the people have just been loving it. The Americans and Canadians just love the design and this new project. Now, last week, we were called up by another developer, and he's down further south, close to Tulum, and he's also starting to do a project, a smaller project, about 50 units, and they're putting in elevators, which is a big plus for down in Tulum, because many of the projects down in Tulum, they don't include the elevators. This is the first one, and he's designing it for retired American Canadian and Mexican as well, but his focus is on the American Canadian. So today, it is basically just retirement friendly. I'm guessing, and I'm projecting that in about the next 5 years, you're going to start seeing a lot more communities, larger communities, and not to be a retirement community, but the independent living. And maybe in about 10 years, I could start seeing more of the assisted living. But I think that's further down the road.
I remember reading on your website that some of your agents are buyers' representatives. Could you tell our listeners exactly what a buyer's representative is in a real estate transaction and why it's important to employ a buyer's rep? I'm sure they'd like to know.
Okay, that's a very good question, George. I don't know how to start this in, but I'll tell you my own experience. When I first started buying my homes down here in Mexico, I would always contact if I was driving by and I see a yard sign, I would assume that the person I had to call, or the only person who could sell that house or the condo, was the person right there with the advertisement, or even on the newspaper or the internet. And what I should have been doing was looking for a representative to take care of my interests. Because on each negotiation transaction, you have the two sides. You have someone who's taking care of the seller, looking out for their interest, negotiating on their behalf, but you need someone on your side as well. So on each transaction, there's basically, you have a seller's representative and you have a buyer's representative. So what we've done is we're starting to train. I have a wonderful friend called Linda Neal, and she has introduced several courses. These are actually courses from the United States, and our team, we're taking these courses, and we're going to start taking these courses for the agents, and to train them how to better represent the buyer. And not just a buyer, but, George, the people that we're helping, Americans and Canadians, we're coming from another country. And the majority of them, this is the first time that they're buying in another country. And down here in Mexico, George, you've been living down here 7 years, but you've been through the experience. It is different. The laws are different. You don't have the safety net that you have up in the States down here in Mexico. Now, it's not the Wild Wild West, but still, you need someone down here to look out for you. I mean, there's developers that it's good to know the history. You need to know who does the good quality. You need someone looking out for you every step of the way. And that makes a difference between a very tense transaction to another one that's just enjoyable. This is a chapter in the life that it's an adventure, and it should be an exciting, fun adventure.
You mentioned Linda Neal. I've been knowing about her for over 25 years. Linda Neal and her escrow company, the settlement company. I'm very familiar with her, and she has some really good videos on buying property in Mexico.
Yes. Yeah, Linda and I, we've been good friends as well for the longest of time. Linda and I, we actually were up in San Francisco last year, at the NAR event, the National Association of Realtors, and we were both at the conference, and we were giving a talk to the realtors out there in the States on how to do it safely down here in Mexico, how to purchase or how to introduce your people, Americans looking to buy and invest in Mexico. So Linda and I were great friends. She's been an incredible guide for me when I first started, and I'm hoping to introduce the same concepts here to my team down here in Quintana Roo.
As I recall, Linda's daughter accompanied her to San Francisco for this conference.
Hey, she was, Amber, exactly. Amber and Linda.
Yeah. I know that you've written 2 ebooks. Give us some information on what these books are about and identify your target audience for us.
Well, George, there's 2 books that we put out. One of them is How to Buy Real Estate Safely in Mexico, and the other one was Buying on a Budget. We took the Buying on a Budget. We released this about 3 years ago. 3 years ago, or 4 years ago. This was during the recession that was going on up in the States, well, in the world. And we started to receive a lot of people, a lot of Americans, mainly Americans, not so much of the Canadians, as their economy was pretty stable there. But there's a lot of Americans writing to us and saying, my savings has just been reduced about 35%. And, Florida is off of the board. Well, I've been reading, and it seems like down in Mexico, everything should be cheaper. Is this realistic? So we were receiving just tons of emails and calls from the Americans, very, very concerned about it. So we thought it was the right thing to do to start, educating and throwing some ideas or showing the people how it could be done. So that's the reason we put out this Buying on a Budget down here in Mexico. And the first one, How to Buy Real Estate Safely in Mexico. This basically, George, there's what we had talked about before in being the buyer's reps. That's one of the first steps you should do is, to get yourself a good team down here in Mexico. And that is about 90% of the solution to your adventure coming down here. You start with a good team, and that results a lot of any kind of headache you might get into in the future.
I understand that these ebooks are free and they can be downloaded from your website. Is that true?
Exactly. They're on www.topmexicorealestate.com, and it's free of charge. There's no charge of it, so you can download it. One of them is a book. I have a wonderful marketing team here at Top Mexico, and they decided that this one of the books, we made it into a book. And so each chapter, there's a little video at the very beginning. So not only read through the book, you have a short video to explain what the chapter is about. So both of these books you can find right there on the topmexicorealestate.com. Just type it in the search, and it'll pop up where you can download. George, along with that, we have tons of kits, too. So if there's a specific question or such as a bank trust, you want to know more details what a bank trust is, you can find a short little kit. It's about 2, 3, or 4 pages, and it just explains in detail frequently asked questions. So we hope this is all it helps anybody who's just starting to look into the adventure of moving and buying property and investing down here in Mexico in the real estate market.
Well, Thomas, there are a dozen or more real estate offices listed on your main website all over the country. It's pretty good coverage of Mexico. What is your relationship with these individual offices?
It's a good question too, George. What we're trying to do is, if you notice, we're working with basically one office. And what we've done, actually, Linda Neal and I, she's helped me tremendously. What we've done is we want to find realtors who have had a lot of experience helping American and Canadians come down here, and people who have a good, strong track record. And also, now what we're going to be doing, George, is we're going to be requiring that these people that appear on the website, that they're people that are actually taking courses, such as the buyer's representative courses. So I want to introduce, and if it's an American, he wants to move to Puerto Vallarta, for example. I want to be able to introduce them to someone who has experience, someone who knows how to take care of their money and their interest buying there in Puerto Vallarta. So it's basically a network. We call them the top brokers. And so that's the goal of the different offices and different brokers in these different cities.
I know Bigfoot Bill.
Oh, do you really? That's quite a name, no?
No, he invited me to spend Christmas at one of his condos.
That's a great name. I mean, nobody forgets that name, Bigfoot Bill.
Well, we're going to be signing off here shortly, but do you have any closing remarks you'd like to make for our listening audience?
George, I wanted to mention, too, that we're coming out with this new project. It's called Mi Casa es Tu Casa. And, George, it's a little video that we're putting together. It's a series. And I was invited by House Centers International. I don't know if you know that show.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Well, I was actually on a show, and we're going to be doing another show, I think, this spring. The first one was involved Playa del Carmen, and we're going to be doing something down in Tulum. But the guys here in marketing, we thought this is a wonderful way or idea to introduce this process of moving down here to Mexico. And so we introduced the show. We're actually interviewing other expats from Canada and from the United States, the people who are going through the process. We interview them. We find out a little bit about their background. Why did they choose to move down to Mexico? And also to listen to their concerns. What are they worried about? And so during this video, we're putting in what we call top tips. So these concerns, it could be something like, what is a bank trust? Or how do I protect can I use an escrow down in Mexico? So it's not just entertaining, but it's also, we're giving tips on how to buy down here in Mexico. And so it's a fun project. So I think we're going to be releasing that within 30 days. And George, I think it's going to be very fun for a lot of the Americans, Canadians who want to learn more about buying in Mexico and living down here in Mexico.
We'll be looking forward to those videos. They sound quite interesting.
I'll send you an email. I'll give you a call once it's up and ready there, George.
Okay. Before we sign off, there's something I'd like to read to our listeners from your website. It says, "Thank you for visiting Top Mexico Real Estate. We specialize in providing listings and expert quality service to all American and Canadian buyers. We realize that buying in another country is not just about selecting and buying a home. That is why we have included many other features on this site that are intended to be your tools in becoming educated about the process of buying Mexico real estate. You will notice various blogs, FAQs, frequently asked questions, kits, and ebooks that will answer many important questions and offer plenty of professional and expert advice. The Top Mexico Real Estate team is here to serve you quickly and professionally." I think that's a good thank you for the website, for people visiting, but I also think it's a synopsis of what Top Mexico Real Estate is all about. And that's all about good and all about education and all about helping. Well, Sir Thomas, I'd like to thank you for being with us today. And we will have a link to your website in our show notes and any other links you would like for us to have there.
Well, George, I appreciate you reading that. I think you answered what I wanted to share with you and the audience. But that's perfect. I know there's a lot of people out there, is it possible to live in Mexico? Is it safe to invest, or is it safe to live, to be down here? And it is. George, I don't know if you know the statistics, but there's more than 1 million Americans and Canadians who are doing it. We're down here and we're living And like me myself, I've been here for 20 years, raising my family down here in Mexico, and I'm absolutely loving it.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
Well, thank you for being with us, Sir Thomas. And perhaps we can interview some of the other top real estate Mexico brokers next year, which is just around the corner.
Well, thank you very, very much, George. It's really good to finally meet or talk to you here in person. I know we've chatted back and forth by email, but any chance you're going to be coming down to Quintana Roo?
I'm going to try.
Well, I'd love to have you down here. I'd love to spend some. I'd show you around to the jazz bars that you like so much.
Okay, and I love Presidente.
Okay, I'm going to make it over that. Christmas is right around the corner.
Okay. Well, thanks for being with us, Sir Thomas. Our website information and our phone numbers follow directly. Please wait for that. Thank you.